Beloved Community Talks.
I'm Bernice A. King. On April 3rd, 1968, the day before my father was assassinated, he shared his vision for the future. He said he's been to the mountaintop and that he's looked over and seen the promised land. Even on the day before the darkest hour of my life, losing my father at the age of 5, his mountaintop vision still gives millions of Americans hope. And from my mountaintop, I see a global community that realizes our interconnectedness as a family, where we value each other's personhood. We are moved by a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love, compassion, dignity, and equity.
I'm Deepak Chopra, and from my mountaintop, I see a critical mass of humanity moving in the direction of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. And they will do this by being the change they want to see in the world.
Welcome to the Beloved Community Talks. Together we win, facing poverty, racism, and militarism. A special 50th commemorative symposium. In this segment entitled, Together We Win Facing Militarism, presented by our partner organization, the Carter Center. Join Rita Nakashima-Brock, Lauren M. Olson, Jordan Ryan, and Nan Orrock in this beloved community conversation about bridging societal divides and resilience in the face of ongoing militarism. Our moderator is Karen Ryan, Senior Advisor for Human Rights, Special Representative on Women and Girls at the Carter Center.
Yesterday evening, we addressed one of the triple evils, racism. Early this morning in our first panel, we addressed another of Dr. King's triple evils, poverty. And then in this later morning panel, we will address the third triple evil, militarism. I will now introduce our moderator and the names of our panelists, and our moderator will introduce the panelists in more detail. Karen Ryan is our moderator for this morning's panel on militarism. Karen is the Senior Advisor for Human Rights and Special Representative on Women and Girls at the Carter Center. She has served in various capacities at the center since 1988, advising President and Mrs. Carter on human rights issues and assisting them with efforts on behalf of victims of human rights violations. Ms. Ryan has represented the center in negotiations at the United Nations, addressing the human rights of women, human rights defenders, and the establishment of the International Criminal Court and Human Rights Council. Ms. Ryan has convened the annual Human Rights Defenders Forum since 2003, which gathers courageous and effective activists and leaders from around the world to examine pressing challenges for the human rights movement. Ms. Ryan holds bachelor's degrees in political science from Emory University and in composition and production from Berklee College of Music. We will now welcome Ms. Karen Ryan. Joining her on the panel, we have Rita Nakashima-Brock, Laura M. Olson, Jordan Ryan, and Nan Orrock, who will be introduced to us in more detail by Karen. Welcome to our afternoon panel.
Good morning. It's still morning, right? Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here in the room, and to those of you on the live stream, please stay with us. We're going to have a fascinating discussion. It is only appropriate that we should end this series of discussions with the topic of militarism. Martin Luther King, at the end of his life, realized, and he admonished us, he asked us, Americans, to consider the interconnectedness between racism, racial justice, poverty, and militarism. And the reason why this was so important is that we were waging a war in Vietnam that was taking the lives of so many Americans and Vietnamese, and it was siphoning off resources that had been earmarked and dedicated to the programs of social uplift under Lyndon Johnson's programs to uplift people out of poverty. There was a direct connection between the waging of war and the disappearing of needed resources to wage the war on poverty. So in his final year, especially, Martin Luther King, he delivered an incredible speech, which if you haven't read it, I ask everyone to go and read the speech against the war in Vietnam that he delivered in New York City at Riverside Church in 1967. Actually, it was April 4th. It was the 1 year to the day before his assassination was the speech on Vietnam. And he said that any nation that spends year after year more and more on war and the military than it does on social uplift is a nation and society that is approaching spiritual death. He said that 50 years ago. So imagine, where are we today? Vietnam did not end our flirtation with war abroad, and it did not end our diversion of much needed resources from military to the needed programs of our community. It has only gotten worse, and we're going to talk about that today. So as a representative of the Carter Center here, I'm very grateful to the King Center. I want to express my gratitude to Bernice King and to Sarah Thompson for inviting us to participate and lead this session.